Right, so this morning we are actually on chapter 9, but just to do a quick recap, so chapter 8 and chapter 9, and actually up to chapter 11, we are brought to view with the trumpets. Um, the entirety of chapter 10 and some of chapter 11 are what people would call parenthetical. It is added to add some more information or very different information from the trumpets, but at least chapter 8, which we did last week, introduces the trumpets, and chapter 9, we will conclude up to the sixth trumpet. Let's proceed. And this is just a quick recap here. So what we would have discovered with the trumpets, they were more or less judgments that God would have sent to a particular entity, and we discovered that entity was Rome, right? The first of the trumpets, or the first few trumpets, were actually attacks on Western Rome, right? Western Rome. And Rome, we saw after the death of Constantine, was divided into three. His three sons ruled various provinces, thus the use of the word a third part, right? A third part representing Rome. So we saw the first trumpet, which was the attack of the Goths under King Alaric, right? Here we see the Encyclopedia Britannica online. You could get some information there, right? The second attack, or the second trumpet, was the attack of Attila of the Hun. Sometimes we hear Attila the Hun, right? This was the second attack. And again, it was focused on the Western Roman Empire. We also saw the power of the Ostrogoths, right, that attacked Rome as well. And we came up with a framework because we didn't go too deep into the trumpets because it's a lot of history, which I don't believe we have to really delve into that too deeply, but at least we were able to cover and understand what the trumpets are and what that will do. It will set the stage for that which is to come after, right? Especially understanding the seventh trumpet. So what we discovered is that God permitted judgment to fall upon Rome. Two, God uses or permits nations, kings, rulers to be a scourge to Rome. So he permits like Attila, etc., to um, punish Rome. And his purpose in doing that, it was actually to bring Rome to repentance, right? But we saw that Rome, at least with the scourges that we see, has not repented, and based on the Bible, they will not repent, right? As a system, we're not talking about people here, as in members of that system, but the system itself, the leadership of that system, those who are the higher ups, they will not repent. And four, this will eventually lead to the seven last plagues, right? So this is the framework that we would have understood from our last study. Now we go into Revelation 9, which I mentioned earlier. It's a very short discourse this morning. So again, if it is you want to stop me and ask questions, feel free to do so. But this morning is going to be a very short discourse. Right? So we're going to start from Revelation 9, verse 1. And it reads, "And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven upon the earth. And to him, which is the star, was given the key to the bottomless pit." Now, there are some keywords that I highlighted in red that we should take note of. Because as we use the Bible to explain itself, we will get specific clues that we can now place into history and see if the clues that the Bible has given us actually fit a specific historic event. So we have a star, and this star was given a key to the bottomless pit. Now, in our earlier studies, we saw that in reference to Jesus as being that lamb slain, right, and the Lion of the tribe of Judah, he himself was also given a key. The key that he got was to the house of David. Can anyone remember what that symbolized of Christ having that key to the house of David? So what it symbolized
I
was
don't have a clue. No.
right. No problem. So what it really symbolized in a nutshell was the gospel. Christ now, being that lamb slain, had the key to the house of David, and he, um, being the one that was set up by God, was now able to give salvation to those who believe. So it was, in a nutshell, the issuance of the gospel, which is salvation, faith in Christ. So we are seeing here now another key, but this key is to the bottomless pit, right? Now, let me click here and move on. We're going to look at the word bottomless. It is in the Greek abusos, and what it really refers to is a deep pit, something that is vast, immeasurable depths. It also is referred to as the abode of the dead or evil spirits. So this isn't something good. Right? So this bottomless pit here isn't something good, and the word pit is cistern, right? And we know from Jeremiah chapter 2 that God tells his people do not go to broken cisterns. So what we are understanding here is that this star, and based on Revelation chapter 1, verse 20, we know the star symbolizes an angel, a messenger. So this messenger comes with for want of simple terms, with a perverted gospel, right? And where was that derived from? The abusos, right? From the abusos. So let's just keep that in mind as the Bible explains itself. So someone is going to come, a messenger is going to come with the keys to the bottomless pit, meaning this gospel is we see the source, where the source of this gospel comes from. Evil spirits, the abode of the dead, right? Verse 2 says, and he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. Now, in the book of Job 41:20, Psalms Psalms 18:8 and Psalm 74:1 reads as follows: out of his nostril goeth smoke, as out of a seething pot or cauldron. Psalm says, there went up a smoke out of his nostrils, and fire out of his mouth devoured, coals were kindled by it. And Psalm 74 says, O God, why hast thou cast us off forever? Why doeth thine anger smoke against the sheep of thy pastures? Now, when you read Psalms 18 and Job, in its context, it also denotes like anger or vengeance or something like that, right? So, what the Bible is trying to show us is that this bottomless pit, right? This gospel that comes from this bottomless pit produces anger or rage. Now, when we get to understand what it is speaking about, then you can actually understand greater what is being mentioned here, right? So this gospel, we know that the gospel produces peace and comfort and joy, but this what comes from the bottomless pit produces something that is opposed to, right? So let's go to verse 3. And it says, and there came out of the smoke locusts. upon the earth. And upon them, and unto them was given power as the scorpion of the earth have power. Again, Joel 1, verse 4 says, that which the palmer worm had left had the locust eaten, and that which the locust had left had the cankerworm eaten, and that which the cankerworm had left had the caterpillar eaten. So Joel here is setting forth these pests, right? And locust was actually part of these pests. So they were considered a part of a plague. One of the things that is denoted by these bugs is that when they do come and devour crops, you won't see one, you won't see two, you won't see 10. They come in multitude, and when they come, they destroy. Right. So the this is the mindset that we should have when we are looking at these bugs, inclusive of the locusts, right? And in the book of Deuteronomy, and in Kings, when Solomon was ordaining the temple, he was relating to the people if the curse was upon you, and actually he mentioned locusts, that you should turn your face to the temple and pray. So it is a type of a scourge, a type of a plague as well. But the book of Judges, chapter 7, also chapter 6, well, I left out chapter 6 because we would have had to go through the entirety of chapter 6, more or less. It points to a people as being called locusts. So let's find out who they are. It says, and the Midianites, and the Amalekites, and all the children of the east lay along in the valleys like grasshoppers. Now, the same word is used there, right? Locust. It's the same word that is used for locust and grasshopper for multitude. Again, we see that they are large in number, right? As expressed in Joel. And their camels were without number as the sand by the seaside for multitude. So, what have we gathered so far from verses 1 to 3? So we see a star that fell from heaven. We know that this is a messenger. The key to the bottomless pit. So what we understand is that this is a teaching of some type of gospel, but this gospel is derived from the abusos, the abyss, and it produces anger, right? And 3, there came out locusts out of the smoke. Now, locust now represents the people of the east. So what we just discovered, we must now plot into history if there was a people that were a scourge to Rome that fits this bill, right? They have a messenger that brought a gospel to them. It produced anger, and they were represented as locusts, meaning that they were from the east, a people from the east. And yes, we have a people. So here's where Islam comes into prophecy. Now, I really wanted to go a little bit deep into this, but I said no, I'm not going to delve too deep into it. But for anyone who understands certain teachings of this faith, and there are a lot of beautiful people, kind, loving people in this faith, but like many other faiths, they are some don't study, so they don't know what is really in their literature, in their teachings. But there are some Christians who God, I would like to say, who God has raised up to reveal to this people and to these people what is really hidden in their writings, and it isn't a nice thing. The thing that are revealed that are hidden in their writings, it's a lot of strange stuff, right? So let's keep it simple. A lot of strange stuff. So again, let's read concerning this people from the east. We're going to read from verses 3 to 12 as we summarize and look at the attack that took place upon Rome. It reads, and there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and upon them was given power as the scorpion of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their forehead. So they were only supposed to hurt Rome. This is what the Bible is saying here, and we're going to see that in history. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. In those days men shall seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. And the shape of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the face of men. So I didn't really go into this, but so these things on their head is just the turbans and the color of the turbans, and obviously in battle they use horses. So this is a bit straightforward. So I didn't really go into this, right? And they had hair as the hair of a woman, and the teeth as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates as it were breastplates of iron. And the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses, running to battle, again describing their means of warfare. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and they was and there was sting in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon. Oh, sorry. I'm just trying to move around my. You all wouldn't see the teams. All right, let me just minimize it. Right, right. Sorry about that. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue had his name Apollyon. One woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. Now, I want to give you all some homework here. Put into Google Apollyon and find out what or who Apollyon is, right? And you will see who was the driving factor behind this movement. Thus, the Bible says that this gospel that they have came from the bottomless pit. All right, so Apollyon, let's Google it and you will get the meaning. Who is Apollyon the destroyer, right? So let's look at the Saracen. So these were Islamic warriors that mounted an attack upon Rome. So let's read. After the death of Muhammad, Muhammad was the star that brought this religion to the east. He was succeeded by the command by Abu Bakr, AD 632, who, as soon as he had fairly established his authority and government, dispatched a circular letter to the Arabian tribes, from which the following is an extract. Now, this is an extract of the letter. When you fight the battle of the Lords, acquit yourselves like men, without turning your back. But let not your victory be stained with the blood of women and children. Destroy no palm trees, nor burn any field of corn. Cut down no fruit trees, nor do any mischief to cattle. Only such as you kill to eat. So I just want to pause there, because what happens, we're actually seeing the word of God being fulfilled, because they were supposed to destroy no tree or green thing, right? The only thing that they were commanded to destroy was those who did not have the seal upon their heads. So we are seeing the circular from Abu Bakr that they were commanded not to kill woman, child, nor destroy any trees, right? When you make a covenant or article, stand to it and be as good as your word. And as you go, you will find some religious persons who live in retired who live retired in monasteries and purpose to themselves to serve God that way, let them alone, and neither kill them nor destroy their monasteries. So this sect of Christians, this is who he was speaking to, they were preserved. And when you look at history, brethren, these were Sabbath keeping Christians who were hiding in monasteries, obviously from Rome. So they were hiding in monasteries and they were not killed, they were spared. But here, who was killed? And you will find another sort of people that belong to the synagogue of Satan. So this, I'm not too sure if he understand what he's saying here, but actually in Revelation, when we went through the churches, there was a dispensation that spoke about the synagogue of Satan, and we know which entity this is speaking to. Who have shaven crowns? So these were the shaven heads of those priests. Be sure to cleave their skulls and give them no quarter till they either turn Mohammedans or pay tribute. So this is just an excerpt of the letter that history has to point us back to the fact that the Saracens were the one to accomplish this prophecy, and God would have said it with exactness, right? So let's continue to the sixth angel. And I told you this morning is really going to be short. A very simple study this morning, right? So we're going to read from verses 13 to 19. And again, you all could stop me at any time. If anything needs to be clarified, you all could stop me and ask a question, right? Verse
But I get
13.
him one,
Go,
one minute.
go ahead.
Um, so the star is we are saying here is Muhammad that that was sent. Was it Muhammad? They say that
Yes.
was reason for to send a message for his people to go on. So God is basically God had reason Muhammad to go and destroy Rome when it's the history.
Right. So what happens? Let me go back. God permits. So it isn't that God would have inspired Muhammad. God would have
Mm-hmm.
permitted all of these kings or leaders to scourge Rome.
Rome.
When we go back,
Okay.
to the Jews, we saw his permissive will in allowing, for example, like the Assyrians to come and punish them, and it was because God was reforming them. He tried, and his last straw is always to permit some level of judgment to befall his people. Now, even Rome, God wanted to reform Rome because it was one
Yeah.
of the provinces that Paul went and preached and whatever. But the devil really took a stronghold there. So these scourges that we would have seen so far, um, five of them, these were to reform Rome. But unfortunately, the Bible says that they will not repent, and they have not repented. So when you think of it, it's not that God came to these prophets and inspired them like the prophets of old, right? But
Mm-hmm.
God permitted that judgment to fall upon Rome. So yeah.
Okay. Oh, understand.
Hmm.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Right. So verse 13 now we're going to look at the sixth angel, right? And the sixth angel sound, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which is before God, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. So take note of that, four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates, right? And the four angels were loose, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, for to slay the third part of men. So that would be a total of 391 years and 15 days. Now, I actually put this here in anticipation to explain this when we reach to verse 10. I mean, sorry, chapter 10. But God had other plans. So, but I just left this here, right? I left this here. So we're not going to deal with this prophecy here. In the number, and sorry, the number of the army of the horsemen were 2,000, 200,000. And I heard the number of them. So all this represents is that it's a large number, right? It's a large number, because there are biblical scholars who still don't understand. Is it 200,000 by 1,000, or is it to the power of 1,000? So it is either 200 million, which is a vast number, or 200,000, right? So let's keep it simple. It is a large number of people that will come against Rome, right? And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them having breastplates, so they have that armor again, but the breastplates are of fire and of jacinth and brimstone. So what is John really seeing here? Let's continue. And the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions. So I haven't seen a horse with a lion head as yet, so maybe it's a new creature that John is seeing. And out of their mouth issued fire and smoke and brimstone. So it's a fire breathing horse with the head of a lion, right? But these three was the by these three was the third part of men killed. Against the third part, this is Rome. This is how they were killed, by these horses and they that sat on them, having the breastplates, the head of a lion, and the fire, smoke, and brimstone, right? And again, it explains by the fire, smoke, and brimstone, which issued out of the mouth, out of their mouths. Now we will see that the fire, smoke, and brimstone is one thing, but because John is seeing something that he doesn't understand, he's trying to give us, to the best of his ability, he's trying to explain, sorry, to the best of, of his ability, what God is showing him. For their powers is in their mouth and in their tails. For their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. So let's try to really understand what John is seeing. So he saw men with breastplates that are red, well, jacinth and blue, gold, red. So this was the color of the warriors that rode these horses. He saw horses with lion's head and flame, smoke, and brimstone coming out of the mouth, with the tail being like a serpent's tail. So what is John really seeing there, right? So the horsemen's attire. So this was pretty straightforward. The horsemen's attire. They had red, jacinth, and brimstone, yellow. So their breastplate of these warriors were this color. So this is what he saw. The horses' appearance. So the head like lions, based on Proverbs and the book of Job. What that represents is the fierceness of these horses. Some people actually go to the I'm going to say the brand of the horse, the species of horses as well, right? But these horses looked fierce, their manes, right? Out of the mouth issued fire and smoke and brimstone. Now, what this was gunpowder from guns. Now, guns weren't invented in the days of John, so obviously he had no idea what he was seeing. So this is just a depiction of these warriors, right? And how they would have waged battle with these old muskets. And anyone who knows that when these were fired, isn't like a modern gun today. Modern guns today, you don't see smoke and brimstone and fire exiting these guns. But in these days, with the primitive weaponry that they had, um, John is seeing this, and he's seeing that, hey, how are these horses letting go fire from their mouth? And it was this brimstone that were killing the Rome that were killing the men. But in actuality, John did not know what a gun was. But as God showed him in vision, to the best of his ability, he would have expressed what he saw. So what he saw were these warriors using weapons, right? Using these weapons. So this is what John saw. Again, concerning the four angels that were mentioned in verse 14, right? Because there were four angels that were loose from the river Euphrates. We're just going to look at that now, right? The four angels.
Brother Kendall, morning.
Uh-huh. Morning.
Um, Concerning this might be a silly statement, but I'm still making it.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what you are saying, we know revelation is things to come, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what John was actually seeing, it had nothing to do with his presence.
Yeah, the
It
present time.
had to
Yeah.
do in his present time.
Correct. Yeah.
So the whole of Revelation, what John was seeing when he saw the person in the candlestick and the image and all that was to be future beyond John.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right?
Yes, you're correct. Yeah. From the perspective of John, he was seeing future events. From our perspective, we are seeing historical events because we have to look back, and
Mhm.
some are still future. But from John's perspective, the majority of this book was future to him.
Okay, okay.
Hmm.
Like how you say that he don't know what there was no guns in his
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
So
yeah. There were not,
mm,
there were no guns in his time, so there was no way that he could have written in the prophecy, and I saw men with guns.
right, right.
This was he could not have written that, right? And this is why even this is an important point as well. When we see these prophets explain stuff, and especially John as well, because we will see that John is trying to explain the new city and so forth. He's using he is trying his best to express himself, but only when we get there we'll actually see how it is. Now, I in and we live in the 21st century. We have never seen transparent gold, gold that you can see through. But John, when he saw the city, he said that the wall, you could look through the wall. So, what type of material is that? So the best of his ability, I could see through it, so it's transparent, and yet it has a color like gold, transparent gold. But when we get there, we'll actually see, how it is, what it is, etc. Right? So let me move forward. So let's look at the four angels here, and we will try to fit what we discovered into history, right? So the four angels, these were the four principal sultans of which the Ottoman Empire was composed, located in the countries watered by the great river Euphrates, Aleppo, Iconium, Damascus, and Baghdad. The siege of Constantinople commenced on the 6th of April 1453 and ended with the capture of the city in the 16th of May the following year. Now, this probably for future reference. Again, I this is there's a prophecy here. There's an event, sorry, that would have sparked um great revival in Christianity in years to come. Someone would have looked at looked at this historic event and would have predicted the fall of the Ottoman Empire. But for this study, we're not going to go there. I put that here thinking that I would have added it to chapter 10, but fate had it that I didn't deal with that, right? But this is just knowledge. This is just basic knowledge that we should have, right? So the sieges of these four sultans upon Rome ended. It commenced the 6th of April, 1453, and ended the 16th of May the following year. So we have the event, the Ottoman Empire, right? And we know that the first four scourges, right? The first four scourges more or less wreaked havoc on Western Rome, and the last two that we dealt with in chapter 9 was upon Eastern Rome, Constantinople. And this here is Turkey, Istanbul. So the four sultans would have attacked this province here, what you're seeing in purple, in Constantinople. So we're coming to a close here. Verse 20 says, "And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not." So this is important to note, right? This is important to note because this is the sixth trumpet, meaning that God tried once to reform Rome, twice, three times, four times, five times, six times to reform Rome, and they did not, right? And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the work of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold, and of silver and brass, and stone, and of wood, which neither can see, nor hear, nor walk. Neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their theft. And this brings an end to chapter 9. But as we commence, chapter 10 and portions of chapter 11, as I mentioned before, are parenthetical, meaning that it's a parenthesis that is added, right? Why is it added? Because before God goes into explaining the seventh trumpet, which the book of Revelation does not, right? It does not really how went into detail and we were given clues and we could have looked into history and point out, okay, the Ottoman Empire or the early Mohammedan movement under Abu Bakr, etc. Right? The seventh scourge or the seventh trumpet is not explained. It will not be explained. It is not explained. But from the framework that we had from the first six trumpets, we can deduce from that and other portions of the Bible what the seventh trumpet would be and who would be part of the seventh trumpet. Thus, chapter 10 and portions of chapter 11 is a parenthesis added to aid us in understanding who will be or who will partake in this scourge of the seventh trumpet, right? So before I close, I just want to give you some guidance that chapter 10 is going to be a little bit much. It's a pretty long study, intense study, but I would have tried my best to kind of make it as simple as possible. But if there's any chapter that you need to really comprehend, it's chapter 10. Chapter if you don't get chapter 10, then you are lost. Not lost, not lost in your salvation, but you will be lost going forward, right? Because chapter 10 now pulls information from the book of Daniel. It pulls information from Revelation chapter 1, Revelation chapter 2, 3, 6, 7, 12, 13. And it really tries to find out who this person in this dress is. So this is why I put this picture here. Who this person is that will be coming out of the wilderness that is to fulfill the seven thunders. And just a heads up, the seven thunders, God hid that. He told John not to write them. Right? So again, we have to look at clues and figure out what these are. But God has given enough information for us to understand what they are. So at this time, this brings us to an end of our study. I think this is the first time that we actually would have finished before the hour mark. So I will take time now to take any questions, right? So the time is now yours to ask any questions. Then, chapter 9 was a very short and concise chapter. Um, Yes, Sister Gil, I saw that you unmuted. Go ahead.
Yeah. The four angels bound. I didn't get that now.
Right.
In the
In the
river.
river Euphrates. So
Euphrates.
let's just go down to 14. That's verse 14. So this would have been the
Mm-hmm.
sixth, right? The sixth angel saying with the sixth saying to the sixth angel. Let me just blow this up. Hold on. Saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet. So obviously we know that this sixth angel is bringing the judgment. What is this judgment upon Rome? Loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. So let me skip forward. The four angels, these were the four principal sultans. Sultan is just another name for a king, right? So this was the kings of which the Ottoman Empire was composed, located in the countries watered by the great river Euphrates, right? So what God did is that these four sultans, he permitted them, this is his permissive will, he permitted them now to scourge or punish Rome, right? And again, this is a prophecy here that has future connotations, but I wouldn't deal with it. Probably at a
Mm-hmm.
next time or but this the fulfillment of this would have lent um a lot of what can I say? A lot of hype to a specific movement that we will see in Revelation chapter 10. But we're not going to deal with this because it's a lot of information that I have in chapter 10. So to make it simple, we're just gonna, keep it simple. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Mhm. Anyone else before we close off?
Brother
One more
Kenneth,
thing.
go
Hmm.
ahead.
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
Yeah, Brother Kennedy said fire, smoke, and brimstone.
Hmm.
Um, like is one thing, and that is what.
Yes. The gunpowder, let me go back. Now remember fire and brimstone is colors. So the fire will be red, the brimstone will be yellow. So these muskets, these guns, and I was gonna put the actual because they have guns from that era in museums, but I didn't put it because this picture would have been sufficient. But this what you're seeing here, it doesn't have color. Quite I had to scan this from a book, right? So this is supposed to represent the smoke, and you could imagine, these muskets being fired long ago. It isn't like the sophisticated gun as we have today, which you
Mhm.
would you wouldn't really see any spark or any fire and smoke, right? But the guns of old, they would have produced fire, brimstone with the different colors, the yellow and the red, and smoke. These old time guns. So it's probably something you could look at YouTube and you could look at muskets, those old muskets, and see how they fire. So because
Yeah, yeah,
John,
yeah. I saw them in movies.
right,
And
yeah,
then old time westerns.
correct, yeah, and even older than that, because it's older than some of the westerns, right? And this is what John was seeing.
Mhm.
Now, remember, because he doesn't know what a gun is, because a gun was not invented in his days, he, to the best of his ability, he's trying to express himself. So he's seen this person that is on a horse. The horse is looking fierce, obviously because of the type of horse they are riding, and these horses are in battle, big manes like the lion and so forth. And I'm seeing like fire coming out of this horse's mouth. What is this here? Right? So to the best of his ability, he's explaining it. But from our perspective now, we are now able to look back and say, okay, these were the Ottoman warriors who rode on their horses and they had guns. Right? Sister Prince, you had a question as well?
This may not be the topic at hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
but to the best of your ability, reading up a lot of history and whatnot, right? Um, First question, do you think that, no, I believe that it's Hebrews with Noah and Abraham and them. It's Hebrews they used to talk, right? Question.
I would not be sure what Noah, right, what language he spoke. The reason being, the world had one language at that time, but
Mhm,
what his great grandson built the Tower of Babel, and that
mhm,
is where God would have confounded the language. So
right.
I'm really not sure what language Noah would have spoken.
Well, my thing is that whatever language it was then,
Mhm.
right? Do you think that in our day now with the Bible being rewritten and all of that, had it stayed in the language, do you think we would have understand it? And the next question, who invented or created this English that coming out of the ancient language that it had to be so distorted? Was English in those days? Because my daughter asked me, so they never used to speak English then? Question.
Right. So the first question is the interpretation of the Bible. Now, I want to use prophecy because we're studying prophecy. Now, in the book of Daniel, chapter 12, God says that concerning the latter days, men shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. That knowledge, even though some people try to pervert that and say that knowledge, as in relation to technology, will increase, that is false. That is not what God is speaking about. Running to and fro, it is a Jewish idiom which means to study. Study what?
Mm,
Study the Bible. So obviously the study of the Bible would be done, and at that particular time, God gave a time frame, right, when this will happen. And at that time, many of the Bibles were in different languages, and they were translated into languages that suited the audience. So an English speaking person will get an English speaking Bible. So, yes, the Bible was in Hebrew and Greek, but luckily for us, many people would have translated it so that we can have reading access to it. So this was part of God's plan to always bring the Bible into whatever language that the individual speaks, right? Because remember, it was God who confounded the language. He would have made the
mm,
language. In relation to the English language, actually, the English language, when you look at it, um, I think it really evolved from a Latin. Don't quote me on it, but there's a name that I'm trying to remember. The first English Latin Bible. Could anyone remember who wrote that Bible? It was just the Old Testament and some of the New. I know he was credited with um, being like one of the spearheads of the English that we have now, right? And that is linked again to the Bible, but I can't remember the person's name. He was a reformer. Wow, I can't remember his name. But the English that we speak now is an evolution of English, more or less, right? Because many of the terminologies that we would have spoken in the earlier days would have been a mixture of Latin, but because of the Bible, we have the English that we have today. But when I get the person's name, I'll send it in the chat. It's right on the tip of my tongue, but it's just not coming. It's just not coming.
okay. Because she asked me, were they speaking English then? And what had came to mind is that when they started talking in tongues, I think it's in Acts, right? Didn't he state the different languages that they were speaking?
I'll have to check. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the languages were were explained, but I know for a fact that everyone there understood in their own language.
The language.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, kind
Oh,
of something with the English. I think English only came about late. It wasn't at the time with the Acts. English wasn't there before. It was more in the later, in the 14th century, 15th century, or something. That is a combination of different, as I say, from different countries, and English come about. I was watching a history with it, so it's like a combination of different countries. I can't remember who was the countries on them, and that's where English came about. But it has history on the English language. Um, my question is concerning Revelation 19. 9 verse 19, right? You talk about you explain the lion, which is representing the fierceness of them, but the power in their mouths, and for their power is in their mouths and in their tails, for their tails were like unto serpents and had heads with them they do hurt. What was the representation of the well I kind of get the idea with the serpent. The serpent could be
Scorpion. Tail were like scorpions.
like no like
Another one,
19.
10,
No,
9,
not
10. Oh,
no
okay.
919.
Now the power in their mouth and their tail were tails. Oh,
And he
I,
put on
I
the
scorpion.
am I
Scorpions.
am assuming that that power in their mouth is like they're bringing false message. I don't know.
No, 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 no. So,
For their
so
power is in their mouth and in their tails their tails were like unto scorpions and had head
Serpent,
and
serpents.
serpents, yes,
serpent.
serpent. Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
let me blow up
Yeah,
this
yeah.
picture here. So remember, John, he's trying to explain it to the best of his ability. So obviously, the breed he's seen a certain breed of horse, right? And we could
Mhm.
look at the horses there. Their manes, they would probably had fuller manes, and the way they decked their horse, the tails would look like serpents. But the power in its mouth is the gunpowder. This
Oh,
is
okay.
so remember, John, he understands what is a horse, right? And he understands somebody's riding the horse. But look at this depiction here. When the gun goes off, generally the rider would probably shoot that gun a little bit away from the. This picture really probably doesn't capture fully how far his hand is, but John is seeing this gun going off, and these old muskets with smoke and fire and stuff, and he's like, "What? Why is this horse, releasing this
In
fire?" So the power to kill was found in the horse's mouth, but really and truly it was the gun, right? So this power in his mouth is the gun, because that power was the power that killed these people. So this is what it is symbolizing.
Right. And understand the mouths.
Hmm.
So you talk about the mouth. So the tails were like unto serpents and had heads, and with them they do hurt. So he's talking about the tail part now. So he explain the mouth, which is the gunpowder, the
Right.
gun and the thing.
So
So the
this is just
tail,
how the horse was decked. This is just
uh-huh.
how the horse was decked.
Elder, I think you see, good morning everybody. I know I come in real late, 4:30. Yeah. What they used to do with the horses and them, right? They would band their tails straight down, right?
Yeah. This is how the horses were decked here.
It would bring it thin like a horse, like a snake, right? And the decoration, how they decorate the horse and thing, but they usually will put like, okay, like if you put a PVC on a dog tail, or you take a ribbon and wrap it around like that is how they used to do them. They used to wrap around the tail. If you notice the tip from the butt to the tail, a little piece, it's sort of smaller than the big fluffy part,
Hmm.
right? That's how they used to do their horse,
Yeah,
like
this is yeah.
wrapping up the tail. So John saw it like that, straight and pointed or whatever.
Yeah, correct.
I miss out on Revelation.
We have the videos, so you could always
Phone,
go back and
no,
watch them. Right. So I'm seeing the time is 5:03. Yeah, go ahead.
I do a cross reference with Revelation 9. The same Revelation 9:19.
Mhm.
It's cross reference with Isaiah 9:15. Here it says, because I kind of get in the idea that the tail represents the serpent represents what was the serpent? The serpent was the devil, right? And he was deceitful, and he had and what was he, what he deceive Eve with lies to tell her lies.
Yeah, the
Isaiah
prophet
nine
that
fifteen
speaketh
says,
lies.
yeah. Well,
and
yeah, this Isaiah 9:15 says the ancient and honorable, he is the head, and the prophet that teacheth lies, he is the tail. So it
yeah,
kinda give an idea. Kinda, I don't know if this chapter could cross reference with Revelation 19. It explained who was the head, and the prophet that teacheth lies, he is the tail. So it does kind of represent and remember the serpent was the tail, and the head is the ancient and honorable. So I remember doing this study, and I think that was the cross reference text to represent to explain the head and the tail. So I could be wrong. I stand corrected, but I don't know if it's that. I don't know if you want to double check it and see.
Right. So when we look at the context, because that text
Mhm.
is a very beautiful text, and when we reach to Revelation chapter 12, we're gonna see that. We're gonna definitely use that text. So when we look at the context here, John is explaining the horse, its rider, and what he's literally seeing, right? Obviously, it's a future event, but he's literally seeing it, right? So he saw a horse in the vision, so he knows what a horse is, so he can explain that, and he knows somebody is riding the horse. The person has on a specific breastplate, red, blue, and yellow, right? The color of these Ottoman riders, right? They were very flamboyant, and the head of the horse was as the head of a lion, right? So it's not a physical lion. Yes, it's the fierceness of the horse, which could speak to the breed of the horse as well. And out of their mouth issued fire, smoke, and brimstone. So this is, even though he's using symbolic language, it is literal. We discover that these were the guns, but obviously John has no idea what a gun is, right? But by these three, which is the guns, the fire, smoke, and brimstone, which issued out of the mouth. So it seemed as though fire was coming out of the mouth, but it's just the musket that were held to the side of the horse to be fired to kill the people, right? For their power is in their mouth, right? The power to kill is in their mouth, which is the guns, and in their tail, for their tail was like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. So again, this is literal, right? So it's not a literal serpent tail, but how they decked out their horse. So he's literally seeing this and putting it now in symbolic language. But again, the text that you use, hmm,
Isaiah 9:16.
the text that you use is more of a, it
15.
I don't see it adding literal value to this, but let's not cast it away, right? Let's not cast it away. But we will see the usage of that when we reach into Revelation chapter 12. Definitely.
Isaiah 9:15.
Isaiah
And
9:15 it was there.
yeah, and ancient and honorable, he is the head
And the
and
prophet that speaketh lies is the tail.
the tail. Thy Rome and the red dragon.
We will see.
The, the head is Rome. The head is Rome, and the tail, that is the devil, the red dragon.
When we get to Revelation 12, we will see Sister Mary, because the ancient and the honorable, he is the head, and the prophet that speaketh lies the tail. So it's two contrasting individuals being spoken of there. But when we get there, we get there. Right?
All right.
Um, Right. So it was a very short study. I am always delighted for the discussion. That's when I know you all are learning and you all are grasping stuff. So I thank you this morning for logging on and asking the various questions that you ask. And just to reiterate, there's no foolish question. God may inspire you to ask a question, and that question may birth many other questions, and it will help me to learn as well as help you all to learn, right? So I really thank you all this morning for um logging in, and I think at this time we should close off with prayer. Anyone feel inspired to close us off this morning with prayer?